I think, we have the potential to make anyone a qualifier, but what you said that's so important for us all to learn is we have to learn how to set boundaries. We have to learn that we're valuable enough to set a boundary. You are important enough to set a boundary. You deserve these boundaries, and you're important enough to ask for what you want. So yes, that person is a qualifier, but you can't not go to work. So it's how well you work your program around those issues. Anybody could be a qualifier when we have no boundaries and we're a doormat, and it's not unusual. It's self-worth. Like the higher your self-worth becomes, the easier it is for you to see that you need to be treated a certain way. And that's not bad. I don't want to be around someone who finds whatever my basic needs are is that I'm needy. Like if someone's telling me I'm needy, then I need to look at, okay, first of all, I do get to, be authentic and say, okay, well, I'll look at that. And then I get to say, no, I want to have, basic communication a few times a week if I'm in a relationship. I want to have spaciousness, or, if I'm facing something that makes me cry, I want to share that with my partner. And if that person perceives these things as needy, then we might not be a good match. So we get to look at that. I have been needy in the past, so I know what real inappropriate needy is. It's more demanding and controlling and that kind of stuff. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Is setting up boundaries, do you think that is a place that S.L.A.A. can really address those, or is that more of an Al-Anon Coda thing?
No, I think that S.L.A.A. does that beautifully. I mean, we have to learn how to become intentionally autonomous women. And an intentionally autonomous woman of dignity and grace knows how to lovingly and caringly set boundaries. We have to learn that to sober date. The women that I hear about who lose their sobriety in sober dating haven't learned the value and the strategy and the technique of setting boundaries. Some examples come to mind about, if somebody's meeting for a sober date at location A, the date begins and ends at location A. So when he says, oh, this is great, the restaurant down the street has the best tiramisu ever. Let's hop in my car and let's go get the tiramisu because it's so good. Come on, let's go. Let's go. We have to be able to say, you know what? That sounds great. I look forward to having that tiramisu with you another time. Tonight, I've got an early morning tomorrow, so I'm really happy. I've had a great time with you. I look forward to getting to know you. But tonight, I need our date to end now, this is going to be good for me. Oh, come on. You just said you love tiramisu. I know I do. I am a tiramisu connoisseur, but not for tonight. But thank you. I really appreciate it. So too many times women aren't able to say no, and they hop in the car, they get in the car, and the next thing you know, they're making out like banshees. One thing leads to the next, and they're at somebody's home rolling around on the floor. Not making this shit up. And you never see them again. So boundaries are critical for us to learn. If we're not talking about boundaries and communicating with dignity, I don't need to wear my disease on my sleeve. I don't need to get mad because somebody, is acting like they don't want to pay attention to my boundaries. I want to enjoy the process of dating and set the boundaries. And one of my favorite boundaries that I set in the past and with the current man I'm dating is what time I'm going to be in bed alone. And so the first time I set this, it was with a guy I was dating. He was my first sober relationship, and he was a night owl, and I'm not a night owl. I wake up early. And so I remember saying to him, because he had no end. it would be 2 o'clock in the morning, and I can't do that because I'm going to wake up early the next morning no matter what. So I said to him, hey, I'm really enjoying getting to know you, but I'm not a night owl. I'm a morning person. So I'm going to wake up early no matter what time we end our date. So I'd like to be at home in my bed alone around 11 o'clock every night. Unless we go to a concert, unless we're traveling, or, 11 o'clock is my curfew. And so that was so hard for me to say. I cannot tell you. That was like the first boundary I ever remember setting. And one night, thank you for the golden clapping hands. I love those. Then one night, a couple of dates later, we were sitting on my sofa. And mind you, ladies, one of the hardest things about sober dating, if you're having 10 dates, 30 days or more before you're anything sexual, is you got to figure out how you're going to spend your time. All I knew was roll around, make out like banshees. You got to figure out how to spend your time. So we had a cool cookbook, and we both had agreed that we liked to cook. And I said, let's look through this recipe book and see what we want to cook next time we get together to cook. And so we're sitting on my sofa, and inside I'm laughing hysterically going, this is so shocking. I'm sitting on a sofa with a guy I find incredibly attractive, and we're looking at a cookbook. This is sober dating. We got to figure out what to do. If we're not going to sexualize it, like I was most comfortable with a guy sexualizing me. If we're going to figure out how to not have them sexualize us, we've got to have a different plan. So anyway, we're looking at the cookbook, and pretty soon he looks at his watch. I'm thinking, what the hell? Why is he looking at his watch? And I said, is everything okay? And he said, yeah, I'm just making sure that you're in bed by your curfew. I'm like, oh my God. I'm not used to stating a boundary or making a request and having it respected. Unbelievable. Another kind of boundary that I've set around my meetings over the years is when I have my meetings. At one point I had a meeting on Sunday night, a meeting on Monday night, and a meeting on Wednesday night. And so that was really important to me. And so I was able to say, these are the nights I'm not available. And, I have a meditation class and a book study and a women's group. And, I don't feel the need for myself early on to tell a man about my program. But anyway, those boundaries are just really important. And so that just took it off the table. Like he wasn't asking me out for dates for those nights. And then there was one weekend that he wanted to go away, and it's like, but we might not be back in time for your gathering on Sunday night. And I said, if it's an occasional thing, that's fine. And I know, like, if I was in a bad place, I could also say, no, I don't want to miss that meeting that night. So I want us to make sure that we leave early enough to get there. So those are the kinds of boundaries that we all have to be learning. Otherwise, we crash and burn in sober dating. So let's take another question.
How you choose a sponsor and how you continue working with a sponsor?
Well, first of all, hi and welcome from Greece.
Hi.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. It is a miracle happening with Zoom. Yes, I am so happy about that.
I
want to the program and having the chance to be with you is a miracle, as you said. Thank you.
Thank you. So the question is, like, how do I sponsor, or how do I work with a sponsor, or
how would I choose a sponsor? I have a sponsor right now, but how do you continue with the sponsor? What are the credentials? How you are supposed to feel in this relationship with a sponsor? Do you call her every day? Do you talk about your difficulties? Is it important to have the same, background? I don't know, the same history or same experience? How does that work?
Great question. And the word that cracks me up the most is credentials. Because really the only credential is that you find someone who has what you want and you ask them how they got it. Now, what I'm recognizing today is that I think it's really appropriate to have kind of just like a dating, like a getting to know you. Like you could say to somebody, you know, I really appreciate your recovery and I'd love to do some outreach with you if you're open to it. And so that way you're just getting to know them more. You hear what people share in a meeting and it's, you know, you feel an affinity or something with them, and then you want to get to know them better. And then you're able to say, you know, hey, I've really enjoyed getting to know you. Do you sponsor, and are you available for sponsorship? Now, this is where it's kind of tricky because there's a lot of different ways to work the S.L.A.A. program. So you've heard here something called HOW, and European, you know, or Great Britain, the program is very heavy into the HOW program, and it's very structured, very regimented. And then there's also something that's going around now that's called the Big Book Way, and it's very fast, and it's very, you know, like you work all the steps in 2 weeks or less. Sometimes it's even 4 hours. And so, you know, I just have worked the steps in just the traditional way. You know, the sponsors or sponsees that I work with, I say, we're not going to rush through the steps, but we're not going to dawdle through them, because the path to recovery is the steps. So we don't want to get hooked up on any of them. The sooner you have all 12 steps to work, the better. So I try to say, we're going to take a year and work all these steps. If you go faster, that's great. If you take a little bit longer, that's okay too. But we're going to keep on this. We're going to keep moving forward. You know, we're not going to get stuck somewhere. And each sponsor is very different. You know, I asked the first person to sponsor me in S.L.A.A. and it was, okay, yes. And that was it. And I didn't really have any direction. I didn't have any guideline. And so what I realized right then is that I had phenomenal sponsorship in OA. And my sponsor, I said, okay, I'm going to work S.L.A.A. the same way I worked OA. I'm going to work all the guidelines that my initial sponsor gave me. That's what I'm going to do. And it was kind of a hybrid that you would say between kind of the HOW program and the HOW program and just traditional, you know, sponsorship, you know. So, you know, that's what I think is really, you know, helpful, is that you find someone who does it the way you want to do it. But I think guidance is so important. You know, like I take sponsorship really seriously. I want to talk, especially if it's a new person, I want to talk to them every day or hear from them every day, because we're setting a pattern. I'm learning about what their disease is and how to help. So I think that finding that with somebody, like how much time do they have to invest into their sponsees, is really important. Like I want somebody who can, you know, we can figure out when we're going to talk. You know, the sponsor I have now is really phenomenal. We're both busy and, but we always figure out a time to talk, and I don't feel, you know, like rushed. I don't feel like if she can't get back to me for a few days, I don't like take it personally and make her wrong and get bent out of shape by it. I just call her again, you know? So I think I might have answered a lot of your question, but I think the key point for everybody really is who's searching for a sponsor is like, here's somebody who you can hear the recovery, and then see if you can make a few outreach calls with them and get to know them and see how well you connect, and then be able to ask if they're available for sponsorship.
It's interesting. It's almost like it's harder for us to connect and find a woman to be a sponsor than it is to be open up and be intimate with a guy in a date. Something to think about.
Okay, who has another question?
Alicia, a quick question about bottom lines. Thank you, and thank you so much for putting this together. That's lovely. And I heard your share last night. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, about bottom lines. You know, I'm clear on my bottom lines because they're, you know, about not acting out. You know, no flirting or intriguing with a man who has a girlfriend or a wife. That's easy. You know. But for me, you know, when I first started the HOW program, I would put obsession in my bottom lines, and I couldn't maintain it. It was too hard because when the wheel goes, it goes, and I can't stop it. And I was wondering if you have any tips or experience with that, because right now they're in my middle lines, you know, obsessions, and that's, as an anorexic, it's my biggest challenge, triggers and obsession. I can feel the chemistry changing my brain literally when that happens, and I feel like crazed about another person. And I use very much the romantic obsessions pamphlets. I find it very useful.
Love that one.
Yeah, I make a list of my fears and it helps, and I pray. But I was wondering if you have, just out of curiosity, because it's really painful when it starts. Ooh, it's really hard. And if people have tips, put it in the chat box, please, because that's my biggest challenge right now as an anorexic.
Yeah, my hat's off to you, because first of all, your level of awareness about your serenity, like at some point we cross a line where serenity becomes more important to us than kind of being jacked up on our disease. And so you've crossed that line to where you can see it and you can feel it happening. And now you're getting to create the solution around it. And so I would say just continue working your program diligently and look at where you can set a bottom line around something that is going to give you more peace and sanity. I set something, you know, a bottom line around no drama. And it has been a guiding principle for me. I actually refer to it more as a guiding principle than a bottom line, but I relate to it as though it was a bottom line. And that means when I'm facing choices about action, that I take the actions that create the least drama for the situation. And so it's really a very spiritually mature choice to choose something that's going to be good for us, but that also creates the least drama in the situation. So it takes time to really figure that out. But once you're in the dialogue about how important your sanity and serenity are, then you get to make choices that are going to be positive for you. So I think that is a guiding principle that we all get to place in our programs, is like, how do we begin to function without coming from drama? So I'm going to take one more question and then our time is up, ladies. And this has just been so completely amazing to come together and, you know, just to begin to put these steps 1, 2, and 3 in action the way we would do them on a daily basis. And I have to say, the more time you spend in part 2 of step 2, like really defining what sanity and what recovery would look like for you, you'll get the richest experience, because then you've got kind of like a homing device. Like, we don't know what sanity is when we get here. We're kind of guessing. And our signs of recovery, does anybody have them handy? And we'll close with the signs of recovery. Because those signs of recovery, and I want you to dig into the signs of recovery. I took the characteristics and made them my own. Like on some of them, number 8 is a huge one for me. We became immobilized or seriously distracted by romantic or sexual obsessions and fantasies. And then I would elaborate on what's my brand of that characteristic. You know, and I would be really into creating, you know, like Valentine's Day is going to come up. I am the one, I am the meeting planner, I'm the event planner. I'm creating a massive Valentine's Day for whoever I'm dating. And I've got streamers everywhere and banners and oh my God, it's insane. And I'm not doing any of that this year. You know, I'm going to get a card. You know, and Jerry asked me on Friday night what I'd like for Valentine's Day. It was so sweet. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to tell him. And I said, he said something like, would you like some earrings or something? And I thought it was so sweet. And I said, yeah, I love the store Brighton. And I told him where there was a Brighton store. And he said, well, will you go with me? It was like, he was scared. Will you go with me? Like, yeah, I'll go with you. And so anyway, but I'm not going to be, you know, creating streamers everywhere. I'm not going to be creating any banners everywhere. I just get to like dial it down to what a healthy, happy relationship would be, not a ridiculous, love addicted, you know, demonstrate my love and compassion and care for somebody. In this case, that I've only been dating for 2 months. So it's all good. So I want to take one more question, and then I'd like for someone to read our signs of recovery. And then I'm going to stop the recording and we can do some fellowship for a little bit. So I see a few hands in the chat. So I'm not going to call on anyone, but if you'd like to share, go right ahead. Or ask a final question that relates to everybody, please. Okay, I guess there's no more questions.
Well, I'll ask a question. I was just trying to let somebody else in, but I'll try to, oh, is there someone else? I guess, you know, you said how important obviously step 1 is, because everything we're going to do is going to hinge on that. And so I'm new, so more to be revealed. But in terms of really knowing, you know, I am questioning how much of what I'm going through really is love addiction. I don't know if there's more materials for me to read versus I know I have anxious attachment. I know I have trauma being re-triggered. You know, is it coda that I'm more powerless in? I know that I'm powerless and unmanageable. I see the signs of unmanageability. I just don't know if they're really love addiction or, you know, that it just, anyway, I don't know if you can answer that question, but these programs sort of cross over. So I'm trying to be succinct in my question that might apply to other people as well.
I think that you're, I mean, first of all, welcome, Nikki, and you're brave to share. And I want all the women who are new and nearly new in our program to just feel so welcome today. And you're sorting through it, and we all have to sort through it. It's confusing at first, and it's a beautiful journey when you take your characteristics. That's what I would recommend, is you take the characteristics and you look at each one. And you just look at what of that characteristic relates to you and what doesn't, you know, and you just sort through that, and you're going to get the answers that you need. And in the meantime, you know, you're going to be going to meetings, you're going to be doing what you can to practice a sobriety and a self-love. And, you know, the top lines are those things that help us to have a happy life. You know, the things that we do to take care of ourselves, that means so much to us. So
should I go back and read those books that were popular 30 years ago with the women who loved too much and the Claudia Black and the Melody? I mean, is it about that? I feel like I've been through this 30 years ago and I worked through it, you know. Anyway.
Yeah. You know what? That's not what I would recommend. I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but what I would recommend is that you get close to our program. Like, you didn't show up here. Like, we're all here by divine appointment, I believe. Like, you didn't show up here, any of you today, by accident. Like, we're here so that we can midwife each other's growth and healing and happiness. Like, we get to do that together. And so I don't think you're here by accident. And I welcome you and each woman here.
Thank you so much.
And the chance to heal your love addiction and your sex addiction today is a gift. The gift that we get to come together over Zoom. I'll forever be grateful for the coronavirus, because we weren't doing this before. And so today we get to come together and to look into each other's eyes and know that without a shadow of a doubt, whatever is your destruction today will not always be your destruction. You know, I don't have to do any more roller coaster romances and dating disasters. I don't have to live in any kind of confusion or despair. And you don't either. And so that's the miracle of recovery, is that my recommendation to anyone beginning in this program is to begin connecting, connect through meetings, and begin sharing. If you have one day sober, get in any of our groups and say, today's my first day. Somebody shared this was their 63rd day. You know, that's what we want to celebrate. You know, just because I have, 8 years, 10 months, and 12 days or so, I know I'm that far away from a disaster if I don't work my program. Now, I've put enough days together that it's highly likely I'm not going to have a slip or a relapse, because I've put enough days together. My life is a program life. So I don't have a fear of slipping or relapsing, but that's how you get there. Like, just keep coming back and keep asking these questions. So would somebody please read the signs of recovery?
I can read them.
Perfect.
S.L.A.A signs of recovery. 1, we seek to develop a daily relationship with a higher power, knowing that we are not alone in our efforts to heal ourselves from our addiction. 2, we are willing to be vulnerable because the capacity to trust has been restored to us by our faith in a higher power. 3, we surrender one day at a time our whole life strategy of and our obsession with the pursuit of romantic and sexual intrigue and emotional dependency. 4, we learn to avoid situations that may put us at risk physically, morally, psychologically, or spiritually. 5, we learn to accept and love ourselves, to take responsibility for our own lives, and to take care of our own needs before involving ourselves with others. 6, we become willing to ask for help, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and learning to trust and accept others. 7, we allow ourselves to work through the pain of our low self-esteem and our fears of abandonment and responsibility. We learn to feel comfortable in solitude. 8, we begin to accept our imperfections and mistakes as part of being human, healing our shame and perfectionism while working on our character defects. 9, we begin to substitute honesty for self-destructive ways of expressing emotions and feelings. 10, we become honest in expressing who we are, developing true intimacy in our relationships with ourselves and others. 11, we learn to value sex as a byproduct of sharing, commitment, trust, and cooperation in a partnership. 12, we are restored to sanity on a daily basis by participating in the process of recovery. Pass.
Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and close together with the Serenity Prayer, and then I will stop the recording. So feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like. God, grant me the serenity to accept the feelings I cannot change,
Courage to change
and the wisdom to know the difference.
Keep coming back, it works if you work it. Keep coming back. Keep coming back.